All right. Mic check. I'm good. So I'm Max Ceron. CWB Association Welding podcast. Today we have a really cool guest. Welding podcast.
The show is about to begin.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the CWB Association podcast. My name is Max Ceron, and as always, I'm looking for the coolest people I can find to bring on the show, and there ain't no cooler dude that I know than Jackie Morris. She has been a wonderful friend and colleague to me since I've been here at the association. Jackie, how are you doing today?
Great, Max. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you bet. And we talk pretty often, whether it's through association or not, through social medias or not, or the world. But I'm very happy to finally have you on the show.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here. I think I needed to do some things on me before I actually showed up, and I feel pretty good about myself right now. So that's why I'm here.
Well, I love you're wearing all the swag. You got the hat, you got the glasses. You showed off the toque a little earlier. You got all sorts of cool stuff. Which is, if you're a member or work with a local chapter, you also could have all these wonderful things. Plug.
Absolutely. I was actually at an event recently, and they're like, "Can I have this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you can have a hat and a pen and all the things that we have in the seed boxes, which are fantastic. 'Cause who doesn't love some free swag? But also, it's nice to represent and have that conversation piece for people too. Like, where'd you get that? That's always something that I get.
And it's got to be nice, right? So this is an argument that comes up all the time, within the company. It's like, what's the point of swag? There's some companies that are very swag conscious and they do a great job of branding. Others are a little resilient on the swag, but from your point of view, like as a chapter chair for your chapter and in Ontario and a part-time educator and all these things that you do, where do you think there's a place for swag?
Absolutely. It's free advertisement the way I look at it, and it's also a sense of pride too. Like, you feel like you're a part of something. I know personally for myself, there was a time when I was feeling a little detached from the welding industry, and the association really kind of like pulled me back in and made me feel like I belonged again. And the swag is nice because somebody might ask, what does that mean? And then it's a conversation starter,
right.
Especially if you're kind of worried about meeting new people and starting conversations. If that's not your jam, I like that about
Breaks
it.
the ice, yeah.
Yeah, it breaks the ice. And I love the swag. And you guys pick great swag because I wear hats every day. I wear sunglasses every day. Toques. If it was, what's it called? If it was a natural fiber like a cotton or a wool, I'd even wear it welding. Maybe we can work on that for the future.
Well, the
Max.
sweaters, that's something that we always have to be conscious about. So when we do bunny hugs or hoodies, I always have to talk to like the distributors and be like, cotton only. And they're like, well, we got great deals on poly. I'm like, this one I can't cheap out on. If I'm going to give out a welding sweater, it's got to be cotton. Like, I mean, I can't be like, oh, this one was a better deal. Enjoy melting,
Exactly.
All right, so let's get going here with Jackie, because you have a wonderful story. I love your story, and I feel like it's one that deserves to be heard because it's not necessarily unique. There's a lot of women, people across this country who kind of follow a path and sometimes get a little lost. And I feel like you are a great example of, coming out the other end, and if there ever is an other end that we do come out of. But, Jackie, let's start with where you're born. Where's your roots? What do you call home?
I was born in Richmond Hill, Ontario. Grew up in Aurora, Ontario. They don't have a hospital, hence why I was born in Richmond Hill.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I grew up in this small, relatively affluent town. Doesn't mean my family was extremely affluent or anything like that. My parents were hard workers, and we just landed in a town north of where their parents grew up. Kind of the way it works. You can't afford where your parents live, and then you move a little bit further away every generation, and that's kind of what's happened for me. But yeah, Aurora was good to me I was there for about 30 years.
Oh, okay. So quite, like very often young people growing up in small towns are like, can't wait to get the F out of here, and go to the big city or something. You were there till 30. What held you there?
Well, it's interesting because I totally had that. I need to get the of this town.
Mm-hmm.
But I ended up having my eldest daughter when I was 18 years old, and I made some choices. The choice was to have her grow up in a stable family home, and that included the tribe of my family.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't at home all the time. Like I did do a lot of travel for work, or I just didn't work close to home, so I just stay out for a few days and then come back. And I felt comfortable doing that because who do you trust your kids with more than your family that you love and grew up with and all that sort of stuff. So.
Maybe Santa, but
maybe Santa. I don't know.
I don't know. He seems sus with his illegal workshop. Anyways,
yeah, that's right. That sounds like capitalism written all over it. White privilege, Santa. Unless Santa's black, and I'd be all for that. That'd be fine.
It's Kwanzaa, right?
It's Santa. Right. Yeah, that's right.
So you said you grew up in Aurora, and then you stuck around till 30, having a kid's a part of it. But let's go back up and lead up to that point. So you're in school, you're in high school. What was it that you were planning on doing with your career? Because you're a welding technologist now. You got your advanced diploma in welding technologist. You've worked as a welder. You have welding tickets, but way before that, there was a young Jackie in high school who had big dreams. What were those big dreams?
It's funny you say that because I don't even feel like I had those dreams,
No.
Max. I felt like I was that kid that wasn't destined for post-secondary because I was always in the special education streams, because for a long time it was, why can't she keep up with the language or whatever it is. So they kept on doing all kinds of tests and they're all inconclusive and why is she the way she is? And I just, through all of those things, all of those negative, it's not even negative talk, just talk around a child. So I was the child and people would be talking about the stuff around me.
The unknown.
I felt I felt like I wasn't, as good as the other kids, or that wasn't destined for me because I wasn't capable to do the curriculum the way the curriculums. Yeah, whatever that thing is. I mean, I'm speculating now that I'm pretty sure I have ADHD and I'm on a path right now to figure that out on with my doctors and things like that. But it's interesting being that kid and feeling like you're never good enough. So I just thought I would finish high school and just get a job. That's kind of what I thought I was going to do as a young person. Probably something manual labor, because I was always good with working with my hands, and I was changing the tires with my dad and doing all that stuff around the house. But I did not feel like I had a dream. But if we're going to talk about the dream, when I was 5, I wanted to be a judge. I don't know if that is ever going to come to fruition, but hey,
you never know, man. Throw it out in the universe. You never know. You never know. I mean, you get to judge welds. Hey,
exactly. So
hey.
you know what? There you go. I made it.
Now you brought up a couple of really interesting points there. So I'm gonna try to pull some information out of there. First of all, what did your parents do?
My father was in computer graphics, he had a really interesting career. He never went to any post-secondary because he was also told a very similar story. When he was in high school, if you wanted to take XYZ classes, you were in an academic stream destined for university, and they kept on telling him he was not destined for that. However, he wanted to take things like advanced calculus because he's a super smart guy and took all the programming that his engineer buddy ended up taking. And but he landed in kind of at first, he was one of the guys that helped do the teleconferencing for the courthouse downtown and helped connect people via actual cables, because that's how we did it back then, and dishes and things. And then he had a long career with ATI, which is now AMD, which computer graphics software, sound cards, graphic cards, stuff like that. And my mom was an early childhood educator running programs through the YMCA for very many years. And then she was working as a director with the Ontario Early Years Center for many years after that for like the development, not just for the children, but for the education of the adult, of the parent or the caregiver for the children.
All right. So we're laying down this foundation that in your home, there's not a huge focus on post-secondary. Your dad had his struggles. Your mom had some post-secondary to get into the ECU world, but those are more like white collar, but like introductory white collar type jobs, right? So for yourself, having this environment where they're like, Jackie's not going to get into university, that might not be her path, and you start looking at the blue collar world, what you call the Joe jobs, like to get out there, use your hands and get on it. Was that seen in your family as like a detriment, or was that like it's a step down at all, or was it like just make the best of what you got? What were the conversations like as you're nearing graduation about your future?
I kind of feel like my parents let me do a lot of my soul searching alone, not because they didn't want to have input, because they heck did. Of course they did. But I wouldn't let them. Like I was like, I'm capable. I can do whatever I need to do. When I was in high school, like I made the guidance counselor appointments. And when I got told by the guidance counselor, like, you can't take that because the silliest reasons, that's not going to help you with your future, this and that. And I would just walk away pissed off because I was like, you can't tell me what to do. I always had this, I'm not going to say I have a complex. I just would question authority
rebellious
all the time. Yeah, that's what people would call it, but I don't like to call it that personally myself, because I just needed to have answers to the questions. Why are we doing it that way? If you can give me a reasonable response, then maybe I'll think about it. But if you're telling me because you say so, well, that's not reasonable. What makes you the person that knows everything, right? So
yeah.
I constantly was looking for answers, and I actually through high school in grade 10, I decided to take a different path, in that I went to an alternative program because I was sick and tired of the authoritarian like way that the system is. Like, I'm a teacher, or I'm older than you, I know more than you. And I'm like, that's not necessarily true. You know more here, but I might know more there. And how do you know what's best for me? So the alternative program actually let me go to work full time, and I went to school 1 day a week, which was really good for me because I've always liked to work.
Yeah.
I did that for up until the last semester of grade 12. And at this point I had said, well, maybe it has changed. That was kind of a naive response. Maybe the system has changed and I'll go back for my last semester.
Well, and you kind of want to graduate with your friends and your clique and stuff too, right? Probably that was in there.
Yeah, sure. And just kind of because like a friend of mine actually transferred from a school she was at to come to the school I was at. And I was like, I'm out because this place sucks or whatever. I was a teenager,
Yeah.
And so when I came back, I still found the struggles. And that's actually where I started to say like, hey, there's a metal shop down the shop hallway. Because I was one of the kids that took automotive in grade 9, which was super cool, but I didn't even get introduced to the electrical shop or the metal shop. None of them were even explained to me as an option to take.
Really? Yeah.
And I only knew of them because I'd go down that shop hallway because the band room was to the left and the shops were to the right. And in elementary school, I did play like clarinet and bass clarinet and all that stuff. And I got into band, so I had noticed them, but by the time I was actually interested in taking those programs, they're like, you need a prerequisite. You don't have the prerequisites to take these classes. And that
you missed
stuff.
the boat.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm not taking grade 9 electrical. It's the last semester of high school.
So you graduated high school, right?
Yeah.
You pulled yourself out of the work program, so it sounds like your last semester probably wasn't the best semester. Did you just kind of...
I still worked.
Yeah,
I still worked. Like, I just kept working, and then I just did different time shifts. And I actually, the programming was, you need to take 3 classes in high school to be considered a full-time student.
Yeah.
I tried for the first couple of weeks. I tried some different programming because I came in halfway through the year. They're like, everything's filled up. You can't take all of these things you're interested in. So I tried a few different things. And then finally I said, I would like to just do part-time. I only need 2 credits to graduate. That's all I'm going to take. And then I got met with, how do you know you're going to pass the course? And I said, well, if I don't pass one of these courses, because I've passed every single one you've ever thrown at me, and the only one I didn't pass was I didn't show up. So I didn't expect to pass that class.
Yeah.
And how dare you tell me that I'm not capable of passing this? And they're my consequences. I can go to summer school. I can do something else. So
don't
get out
let's
of my
not
face.
You worry about me. Let me worry about me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I
So you
got
graduated.
out at 17. I think I graduated. Yeah,
When's your birthday?
July.
July. So yeah, you would have been 17, turning 18 in the summer. Yeah. So you're out of high school, and high school is a crazy place. Like I didn't have a great time in school, even though I did well in school. I got suspended lots. I got kicked out. I went to a couple different elementary schools.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, it was like I never failed. I never had any problems with the courses. It was like the system itself. And I'm not into homeschooling or anything. I'm like not anti-establishment like that. But I am, and I have been raised my whole life to question authority. That is something that my parents made very clear. My parents are socialists from a communist country. And to them, it's like if it doesn't have a context for the greater good, second guess it. Like if it's just going to be for X, okay, maybe. But if it's also good for Y and Z and A and B, then that's a better argument, right? So high school was very much like that for me. And I got put kind of into the misfit stream. Like you're just like one of the misfits, and it can be for a number of reasons. Because high school's it's like Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome high school, right? And it's very much cliquey. And if you're listening to this podcast and you don't know what we're talking about, welcome to you're a jock, or you were very preppy, or you were rich. You were because for the rest of us, it was a escape. Like all the people that I'm like, high school is great. It's like, okay, settle down, rich kid. But anyways,
they peaked at high school.
Yeah, exactly. But this is something, and this is going to go off on a tangent. We'll come back, but I want to go down this tangent because one of the things that industry is trying to do now, and I would say industry at large, the welding industry, is trying to glamorize welding to be like, hey, it's not just dirty, it's not just rough, it's not just working with your hands, it's also for the straight A students, it's also for the jocks, it's also for the privileged. We need everyone on board. And the messaging goes very much that way. But I would say it's going too far, because I've actually seen some things come across my table where people are trying to push things towards we don't want the misfits. We don't want that part that historically has been there, because the jock that didn't get along with the misfit in grade 10 is going to be the same welder jock that doesn't get along with the misfit welder at 30. And it's going to be a disruptive workplace. And if there's too many misfits at work, like the tattooed long-haired weirdos at the welding shop, then you're not going to get the clean-cut people to come and be comfortable in that environment because it's too misfitty. That for me is a big hard no. That's a mistake.
That's a huge mistake, because the reality is we are not the same people at 16 that we are at 30. Also, we need people who want to get down and dirty and do the hard work. And realistically, even somebody who is destined for the white collar position, let's say as the engineer or the technologist who's working in an office, let's say, they will do their jobs better if they understand what every level does. Mm-hmm. So maybe what it should be is that we should be introducing it as, you need to take these earlier steps and learn how to live in the area of actually creating the stuff whatever it is, and then work our way through. So then people have more empathy for each level, and vice versa.
Yeah.
The people on the side of things that they want to use their hands to be the actual tangible creator, like our metal fabricators, our welders, those people, they should also get a taste for what the engineers, the technologists, all those people do too, because then they'll actually understand more, why you need to control your electrodes, why you need to follow your procedures precisely or within your range, and not be like, whatever, what do engineers know or what have you, because everyone has a place within. We always talk about ladders. I don't like using the terminology in ladder because then it seems like somebody's higher than the other. Yeah. And I think it's sequential. You need somebody to plan it and pay for it before you actually get the person to make it, but it's still sequential. You can't have the building without the welder. You can't have the welder without the guys planning it or the people planning it. So we're all necessary, and making a more inclusive environment so everybody can learn that it is a place for everyone, and we need to have more empathy for everyone within that sequence. That makes more sense, because if they end up succeeding in doing what you were talking about there, then we won't have anyone to actually create the product. And then where are we?
Yeah, and
or maintain it.
I knew this tangent would get you stoked. I knew it would do it because it's a reality, and I think that it creates a dichotomy where it's like, okay, if you're a welder, your level, your I guess success point, like what you're looking to as a plateau, is to get out of welding someday. Climb that welding ladder, and you will be afforded the success of perhaps becoming a supervisor, getting behind a desk, or maybe going back to school and becoming an engineer. Like, you've worked your way out of the mud into the magic zone, right? And then on the other hand, you create this, why would an engineer ever come down to the welder's level? I
can tell you.
Right? Go ahead.
I could tell you why, and why somebody would want to go either way. It has everything to do with the stress level of actually understanding the jobs that these people do. If they actually understand the gravity of the work they are doing, then people would understand why the engineer might want to take a step back and drop the hood, because guess what? The only thing I need to worry about is myself and my own procedure and what I need to do here and now, instead of taking care of the whole picture and being responsible for the whole thing. And if you are an ethical person, which you should be in this industry, whatever level you fall within, it's like therapy. You drop the hood and you feel good. And same thing, a welder might never want to go up, because managing people is hard.
No, and why stressful. Is it up? Being a welder,
up, exactly.
Yeah, your job is your job. If you love your job, do your job and be the best at your job. Success needs to be personal. Like, success is not compared against somebody else. Success is a personal journey. And if my personal journey is to, work from 7 till 3:30 every day in the manufacturing plant so I can have time with my kids on the weekend and blah, 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 rock it. That's awesome, because I'll tell you, my path to what I considered success in my life has been at the expense of my family and the people around me. And that is a choice. That's a choice, right? That was something that I had to do, which it does create, I hate the term regret, but it does create that hindsight of like nostalgia. Like, I missed out on birthdays. I missed out on kids' stuff. I wasn't there for certain parts of their lives because I was out chasing this career that I got. Yep. Okay, I got it, but I don't get that stuff back, right? Like, it's gone.
Actually, that's something that when I met my now husband, we had conversations where he would say things like, "You've made a lot of sacrifices." And I beg to differ. I would tell him that I've made a lot of choices, because the sacrifice is saying that I have missed out on something. But if I've chosen to do it, then I actively know what I'm missing out on, or what I'm not missing out on, because I'm choosing one or the other, or what is that success for me, like we just said. So it's about making choices and understanding that time is precious. You're not guaranteed tomorrow. And your job, it's interesting. A lot of people talk about being dispendable, like we could replace you. And I'm like, I don't think that's true anymore, because I can replace a warm body if that's all you were in your job. But really, is that who you are? Are you not proud of what you do? Are you not proud of what you put out, your quality? They can't replace necessarily, and they will never replace you, because you are unique. the individual. Everyone is.
Yeah, when I ever hear that saying, like, everyone is replaceable, because, it's true. Like, I mean, from a bare bones level, it's true. But I like to look at it like if who's replacing who?
Yeah.
Right? Who, like, if and this is my personal journey, every time I've had a boss be like, we can replace you, it's like, yeah, I feel like I'm the winner, because the fact that you even said that makes me want to replace you as my boss, because I could have a better boss that will give me more opportunities, because obviously we're at some type of an impasse here if this conversation's even happening, because the whole conversation of, well, everyone's replaceable, that goes both ways, right? Like, I mean, I always tell young people, they're like, tell me that they're not happy with their jobs, like, just bounce, like, don't quit and be unemployed. That's not cool. But, start looking around, start padding that resume, start taking some courses, start doing some night school. Like, what do you want to do? Get the hell out of there. If you don't like it, that's on you, right? Like, get out of there.
Yep. I'll quote my buddy Paul Taylor. He always says, my toolbox has wheels. Absolutely. Pick up and move.
Yeah.
Create your own path. Like, if you're building your career, you're not at that position to help those people design and build whatever they are doing. You're designing and building yourself, creating your resume, creating what you want to be. So if it's bothering you, how much time do you want that on your resume for? Or do you not want it on your resume? If you don't want it on your resume, leave right away. Walk out the door. But if you want it on the resume and you're like, okay, I'm committed to 6 months, or I'm committed to a year, or whatever it is you want, you're doing it for you. You're not doing it for somebody else. You're doing it for your growth.
Yeah. And sometimes you do take those jobs that you're like, I don't like this job, but it's a skill that I need to acquire. And I'm going to stay here till I acquire this skill and bite down. And I mean, those are the hard choices that you have to make to advance. And that's it. Like, I mean, I have found that the people that I respect for where they are and what they've done all had a dark period where they were doing something they did not like to get to where they needed to be. Right.
Absolutely. And those are the choices that we were talking about. You got to make choices, because life's not easy, and it's not easy to make choices. And sometimes the choices they don't look shiny as soon as you step into them, but it's for the bigger picture.
Yeah. Yeah. Now,
and that's where you can reduce regret.
Yeah,
right?
well, and that's why I don't like the term regret, because I don't really regret anything. My life has been chaos, so like, what's to regret? It's just like you said, it's just one choice to the next. The only time it's hurtful, because you can have hurt without regret, is that when I talk to my kids now as adults, and they're like, we missed having you around and blah, blah, and it's like, yeah, but now we have now, because now that now I have lots more time. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, because I put that investment in early, right?
Yes, exactly.
Now, we're talking about the, kind of like that misfit stream, and how it's kind of it's a whole bubble that it's hard to talk about, because you don't like labels. We don't want to use labels. We don't want to make people feel like, oh, I'm on this side, because then that just creates the argument on the other side of like, well, you're there and I'm over here. And we want to create these environments, these workplaces that, like you said really well, that are empathetic. Everyone's empathetic to each other, and acknowledges that self-awareness that we are all necessary here, and none of us is more or less necessary. Because I've had people pull that out on me in shops as a manager, and they're like, oh, my job. And I always got to let everybody know the most important person in the shop is the saw guy. So before everyone spouts off, go give the saw guy a handshake, because if he screws up, we're all dead in the water. So like, and he's probably the lowest paid guy on the floor. So like, let's remember where the respect goes. It's not about, tickets or who you are. It's about the work. We got to get the widgets out, and everyone's a part of the widget train here. So now, for yourself, coming out of high school, you're kind of looking at these these welding shops, and it sounds like you kind of have welding on the brain a little bit. Is that a thing? Was it happening?
Yeah, I had taken a construction techniques program in high school. I was able to, I guess I didn't need a prerequisite for that one.
Well, it's just wood. No.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, it sucks. If you cut it wrong, you can't weld it back up. Like, anyway, I had just seen the metal shop and thought that would be pretty cool. I was the crafty kid. I liked doing arts and crafts and stuff as a kid too. So I was interested. So it was at the top of my mind, kind of, but not really. I was just being a kid, working multiple jobs just so I could have money, so I could party on the weekends, do all those things, take care of
Mm-hmm.
myself, And I was that person that if I wanted $10, I'd be like, Dad, can I cut the grass or can I shovel the driveway or whatever it is? Because I just learned that there wasn't lots of money available. My
Mm-hmm.
parents didn't just hand it out. Um, so I just knew that I wanted money to do things that I wanted to do.
So you're contemplating these things, and you get pregnant,
Yeah,
right? Because like this is the window, right? So like
yep.
you're done high school, you're I don't know if you get your first kind of trades gig yet, but at what point did you get pregnant, and what starts happening there? Like how did that go down?
So, well, that was an interesting situation. My boyfriend at the time was living with my parents because he wasn't in a great situation himself. And actually, that whole experience with him was kind of a good one that helped open my eyes too, because he is native Antiguan or native Canadian and Antiguan. So I had kind of started to see a different world because Aurora is a very, let's say, whitewashed, affluent space. So you
Mm-hmm.
don't, there was two kids with any sort of ethnic looking background in the city. So I had kind of experienced life a little bit through his eyes. And
Like life in
I,
terms of like discrimination, kind
yeah,
of the other parts, the people of color problems.
talking about not moving out. Well, I totally did move out with him for a little bit of time. We
Mm-hmm.
lived at like Eglinton and where was it? Dufferin and Eglinton area. It wasn't like great neighborhood or what have you. I was the person that kind of took care of most of the bills. I kept working. I did all the things, and then that ended up falling through,
Mm-hmm.
getting pregnant, living at home with my parents. He decided to take off and try to, make something of himself because he felt that urgency to support. Ultimately, it turned into an abusive situation where I would get anxious when the phone would ring because he would call me and there would be a lot of verbal and emotional abuse going on to the point where he would say things to me like, if you don't come and do what I'm asking of you, I'm going to hurt myself. It
It's
was
like
a lot of growing up.
narcissism, manipulation,
Absolutely. And I mean, I can't, like, I always felt for this man because he also grew up in a really rough situation. His family life was not great. He was one of like 9 or 10 kids, and some of them were adopted out, some of them were in the system, you know.
There's a lot of trauma response when it comes to abuse, right?
Yep, yep. So there was a lot going on there. Thank goodness I had the mother I do have who would spend time like de-escalating me on the phone afterwards and things like that. It's finally to the point where I was not working.
Mm-hmm.
I was pregnant, not working, couldn't find a job because I was pregnant, and 18. So it turned into just trying to take care of myself, trying to get through all of this stuff that's happening with my 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 sperm donor, if we're gonna call him that, my baby daddy. I don't know. um,
And what are you gonna
sorry,
do?
it's a
Like,
train.
yeah, like I mean,
So
you're pregnant, you're at home, you kind of feel alone now, right? Like,
yeah.
it's almost like you'd rather be alone now, to be honest.
Well, and I was definitely pulled out of my friend groups because my friends were still like just finishing high school
Yeah,
or
they're party mode.
finished high
Yeah.
school. Yeah, they're getting ready to go to university. So I
Mm-hmm.
basically like reclused and lost all of those people because I was on a different path at that point. Ultimately, it came down to me telling this person that, you know, you have no power over me. If you do something, it's not my fault. You know, I do not want you to hurt yourself, but you can't try to manipulate me into doing something that's not good for our child.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you want me to come and live in a wet, dingy basement apartment when I could stay here with the stocked fridge and
Yeah.
start pursuing a future and all of those things. So I made that decision. And then ultimately it came down to I never wanted to stop him from seeing his daughter. Um, he would call and come to
You
the
still want that
house.
parental figure around, you know.
Yeah. And I had said to him, I said, I'm not going to stop you, but I want you to come to my house because I felt safe at home with, and
Mm-hmm.
my father had to be home, or somebody, my father, my brother, somebody had to be home with me during that time. They didn't need to be with us, but like
Yeah,
just that
just
sense of
around, you know.
security. Yeah. And ultimately, it came down to he would call, make an appointment, not show up, and then not
Just
call,
fade
not show
out,
up.
yeah.
Yeah, and I finally just said, my daughter deserves far more than this. She deserves stability. So you can see her whenever you want, but you will not be considered daddy. You'll be a friend of the family until I
Mm-hmm.
deem otherwise. And then he dropped off the face of the earth for many years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which which is fine. I'm an in or out kind of person. You're either in the kid's life or you're out. You're not here to screw around. They're already going to be screwed up enough as it is,
Mm-hmm.
whether you whether you're in or out, really.
Well, and it's tough. Like, so, my ex-wife, she got pregnant at 18, right? I was 21. And she was from the affluent family with the stay, and I was the person of color coming in, that all craziness. But in the end, it was, I was in, right? That's the difference, is that I was in. And we didn't last. We got divorced down the road. We made a go of it and had a couple kids, but having that in or out mentality when kids are little, it's kind of necessary, because you got to have boundaries, and that's really hard to do when you're young. You're still not an adult. You're still like kind of child brain, and boundaries are a very tricky thing. And honestly, I'm coming up on 50. And learning about boundaries is a never-ending thing. And that's usually one of the biggest pieces I coach to young people that reach out to me for help with anything. I try to just relate it to boundaries. If you can set some simple boundaries for yourself and for your interactions, you will make your life so much easier. And a boundary is much easier concept than it is confrontation or de-escalation, or these dialogues. No, you can just put a line in the sand and say no. You know what? Just no.
Yep.
Just no. And I'm not even going to talk about it. I'm not crossing that line. It's just no, right?
Yep. Yeah. And it's interesting you say that, because I even struggle with boundaries now, and I'm not quite 40. And it is definitely something that I even struggle with myself. But this was a boundary that I wasn't willing to sacrifice. And a lot of that had to do with, I believed that my daughter deserved more. And she was the segue for me to, because I thought she deserved more, that's when I went to school. That's when I started to try to pursue something more than what would be that Joe job, because she deserved more. Through my journey, I've learned that I deserve it too. It just took that jump start, I guess, or maybe it would have taken me longer if I didn't have her to learn that. But that's
trauma,
why I ended up
like, I
going
mean,
to
trauma
school.
goes both ways. It can be the great fire, right? And fire is an interesting thing. Fire will either burn the house down or heat it. It's one of the two. So, now what happens then? You have your baby. You're trying to establish, what's a semblance of a life. You lose all your friends. I just tell her that just happens. If you're lucky enough, I was very lucky in that there was a whole bunch of teen pregnancies at that time amongst our group. Like, it's like no one knew what contraception was in 1998, but a lot of babies were born. And so we were lucky that we had quite a few other teen parent mom situations around us that we had friends with, so that's nice to have a little pregnant community. When you're kids, because the adults all abandon you, right? Adults are just like, oh, you're dirty now, or you're broken, or I heard so much of you ruined your life, like over and over. You've ruined your life. It's like, okay, I don't need that energy around me. I'd rather hang out with the other pregnant people that we're all just trying to be hopeful. And when you love your kids, like, I mean, it doesn't matter if you're 18 or you're 80, you love your kids. That's the great equalizer, right? Now,
Absolutely.
For you now, what's the path to get into school? What do you do?
So I spent the first 2 years of my daughter's life basically developing her. We spent, and that is all because my parents were so great to be able to support us. Now, I did have a part-time job. I worked on the weekends at the local kennel, so I took care of dogs and cats and anything that was in the kennel. And actually, that was kind of going back to what we talked about before. That was kind of one of the original maybe paths that I was going to take. Because when I was younger, I did horseback ride. I owned a couple horses, only because my parents got inheritance from their parents passing away. That's the only way we'd actually be able to afford that kind of stuff. So I did love the animals. And I actually thought maybe I'd become a vet tech or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And just going through the motions and the abuse that you take in that industry too. Like, you think the animals have it bad? Man, people with a bleeding heart, they're volunteering all day long because you only get paid for 4 hours, but we were there for like 8, things like that, just to make sure we got all the things done properly. So I did that, and at the 2-year-ish mark, or just before that, 18 months, I started thinking, okay, well, what am I going to do? Because I don't have
an endless
am I gonna
window
go
here.
Yeah, am I going to go to school and become that vet tech? Is that what the job is? So at that point, I was thinking, okay, my high school stuff was like, okay, I don't have the best marks, I didn't have the worst marks, because I didn't care, because it was, who cares about Shakespeare? No offense, Shakespeare can get you sometimes, but it wasn't for me. And I took a general arts and science program through Seneca College, because that was, I basically was leafing through, what will they not say no to?
Yeah.
Like, that's
What's
what
a
I was
guaranteed
looking at.
entrance? Yeah.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly. So it was a 1-year general arts and science program, and I signed up, and I got my daughter into like subsidized childcare. Thank goodness, because I couldn't afford the childcare. And she went to school at their lab school on site. So I basically dropped her off, and then I could walk.
Perfect.
If you've ever been to Seneca King campus, they have a lake, they have beautiful rolling hills. It's a beautiful place. So it was perfect. She got to go to forest school. I got to go to college and start kind of finding myself again. Because who was I? Well, I was a up to no good teenager, or that's what everybody said I was.
And now you're a mom.
Even though, yeah, well, and I never really thought that I was up to no good, because I always had a job. I was always doing the things, but whatever. You get labeled, and
come on, you did some bad things.
Of course I did.
I can't play that card. I always had a job. I always did good. Yeah. But I also know that I did come to my critiques honestly. So
Yes. And I wouldn't say that I didn't do things that piss people off, or absolutely.
But now you're at Seneca. Seneca or Seneca?
Seneca.
Seneca. So
Seneca is very much like the York, Toronto and York region area, where there's like multiple campuses that they offer all kinds of college programming. But the multiple campuses is to help for people who can't commute.
Okay, I see. So now you're in this course, and you're trying to figure out, like, these are usually like lead-in courses to, by the time you're done this, you're going to now pick a major and pursue that, right? What was going on with you there?
Okay, so the program is basically, all the general education classes that you have to take when you pick the program you want to take. That's basically the program I took, all the general classes.
Good.
So in my mind, I was like, okay, let's get the English and the computers and these gen eds out of the way and have some fun, kind of figure out where I want to go, because I had no idea. Yeah,
and you're still young. You're only like 20, right? Like, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was in there. I was enjoying these classes, just getting like great marks because I enjoyed it. And that was kind of like the aha moment for me, that I didn't hate learning. I just didn't like the system that I had to learn in when I was younger. So I really started to love education and post-secondary education. I worked at the college as well. I did like facilities stuff, cleaning. I worked in the gym, swiping cards and all that thing, to trying to make the most of my time at school, because they do also have things like your schedule. You're here 5 days a week or 4 days a week, but there's a 5-hour break between one class to another. I'm sitting here going, well, I'm not leaving. I have bus pass. I'm not leaving. It's, if you've ever seen Seneca King, it's in the middle of nowhere. There's nowhere to go. So That's why I picked up the work.
Mm-hmm.
And through that work, it gained me some access to the campus that people didn't always get access to. One of the things that it gave me access to was actually the underwater skills program indoor pool. They had like a 40-foot reverse silo is what I would call it, a whole pit and this is where the guys would learn, or the people would come in and learn how to start their underwater skills training. So I was so lucky I got to go in and clean their toilets. Awesome. But at least I got to see the facility.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
A facility that just got shut down last year as well, which is very sad.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very sad. I really think that the college is missing the mark on that. It's going to be a detriment to industry, I believe. I know quite a few commercial divers or former commercial divers because of this programming, because I fell in love with the idea of the lake. I'd go down and I'd watch these guys or these people, because there were, one female per year pretty much. It's very similar to welding. There's not very many female. But I got to watch them do underwater welding. I got to watch them do all kinds of cool stuff. And that, I think, is where the interest in welding kind of clicked, because I'm sitting here watching people weld underwater. I'm watching them use the really, I don't even know, these are coated electrodes that they can weld underwater with. It's all SMAW welding, but I didn't really know any of this world. I never even thought about welding until I saw this happening, and I'm like, welding? And then you start looking at welding. Well, what in this world doesn't have welding affiliated with? And then it just started to open up this massive opportunity base. But I was looking at divers going, cold, dark, lonely. That's probably not me.
But what can I pull out of this that is me, right?
Well, I became freight train. Hopefully you can't hear that.
No, it's all right.
I became friends with one of the faculty there, actually, and he introduced me to one of his sons, and his son actually struck an arc, got me to strike my first arc surface, obviously, surface welding, and I was, like a moth to the flame. More. I want to see more. I was kind of oblivious to it all, slightly questioned, because this guy was welding barefoot in his farm, like...
If we're ever hanging out, I mean, you've seen me in my swim trunks, but I have some crazy burns on my foot from welding with sandals on. Like, if anyone ever asks about PPE, I got some pretty good examples of exactly what not to do.
But I mean, this guy, he was a kid, right? He was like 18 years old and living his life. And he was great, though. Like, this guy had welding tickets and is working for his dad's company and would go out and do welding jobs. And like, I kind of fell in love with it, because this was a young kid who was pretty much free, had a truck, went and did a job. Like, I went and rode about with him a few times on some just quick jobs that he did. Like, this is really cool. I really enjoyed that. And as far as I know, he's off making like set design and real cool stuff now. I mean, we've lost touch over the years, but Ben Boreen, he struck my first arc with me, and I am grateful that he shared and showed me.
It's like your first kiss you'll never forget, right?
Yeah, it was amazing. And it's interesting because they are such a welding family, because years later I actually, I had met his brother. I'd hung out with them anyway, but his brother came to the welding technology programs at Conestoga, and I got to reconnect there with him. So that was kind of a neat full circle experience.
All right.
With,
well, right now we got to take our break for our advertisers, because usually the warm-up talk takes about 20 to 30 minutes. We're almost at an hour. So everyone who's watching this episode, stay in for the long haul. This is going to be a long one, but it's fantastic. I love this conversation. So don't go anywhere. Right. We'll be right back here on the CWB Association podcast with Jackie Morris. All right, so stay tuned.
The CWB Association is new and improved and focused on you. We offer a free membership with lots of benefits to anyone interested in joining an association that is passionate about welding. We are committed to educating, informing, and connecting our workforce. Gain access to your free digital publication of the Weld magazine, free online training, conferences, and lots of giveaways. Reach out to your local CWB Association chapter today to connect with other welding professionals and share welding as a trade in your community. Build your career, stay informed, and support the Canadian welding industry. Join today and learn more at cwbassociation.org.
And we are back here at the CWB Association. My name is Max, and I'm here with Jackie. We had been talking up to this point about life, you know, all these crazy things called life. And now you got bitten by the welding moth. The welding moth has injected its poison into you, and you are now recontemplating your career paths. You're at Seneca College in mid program. What's happening in your brain? What's going to happen?
So interesting. I fell in love with welding, but I'd also fallen in love with their recreational programming that they had there.
Mm-hmm.
And I had decided that, you know what, maybe I'm going to get into their rec program. So I did. I signed up, I went in, and unfortunately or fortunately, I mean, the universe works in its mysterious ways. During this time, I had actually started to have some interesting like health concerns come up, and I thought it was stress related and not taking care of myself because it happened during like the week of exams or leading up to exams where I'd have the worst like abdominal pain. And I just thought it was a combination of, you know, drinking energy drinks and gummy candies and like not taking care of myself properly.
Also probably part of it, but
yes. You're staying up all night long doing all the assignments because I mean that's what I had to do. I had to balance my life as a mom, life as a student, and I really wanted to excel and do well. So that was what it was like. Not lots of sleep. Anyway, so I got into this program, and leading into this program, I had gotten a fever that lasted for like a month.
Okay, that's not
and
normal.
I kept on, no. And I had talked to, you know, I was in the hospital a few times, talked to the doctors. What's going on? You know, I'm no doctor here, guys, but a fever means an infection. Can you find it? That kind of stuff. And I got the, well, just monitor and take Tylenol. I'm like, guys, I've been doing this for 4 weeks now. Let's have a looky-loo. Anyway, it turned into, I was in such pain one day. My mom had to take me to the hospital, and I was like curled up in the fetal position, shivering because I had this high fever. And the only thing that could make me feel good was I'm singing all the baby songs I sing to my daughter to sleep to try to get through this. And it's kind of kismet because sitting in my classes before this occurred, I was just thinking, why am I in this program? It isn't for me. What they're asking of me is not like, it's something that I don't feel like I need to spend the next 2 years pursuing. And it was already past that point of getting your money back and all that. So it was kind of kismet that I ended up staying in the hospital for a couple of weeks because I ended up having a
medical withdrawal.
I had a 6-inch diameter abscess in my abdomen because I had a hole in my intestine. So it was good. Yeah, I was able to withdraw, get all my money back. And then I started down this journey of this illness that I was needing to deal with, which was its own journey in itself because nobody really could tell me conclusive what was wrong with me. And it took almost a year for them to say, like, yes, we believe that you have Crohn's disease. We believe that you have a microscopic hole in your intestine. I had a hole in my side leaking all kinds of nasty because where they had drained the abscess, it never healed because it just continuously got, fed. So it kept on getting fed. So it kept on leaking, and it was a disgusting experience. But it was an eye-opener on that. Doctors are just like everyone else. You've got 90% doctors and you got 55% doctors. So I kind of learned how to stand up for myself a little bit because I always felt that I wasn't that sick, even though I was really sick. To the point where finally a lot of stuff happened. We can glaze over that, but a lot of stuff happened. A lot of waiting happened, a lot of waiting to start a drug that would reduce your immune system so your body can heal itself. I'm like, that sounds lovely, but that is not what ended up happening. I met a beautiful female doctor who listened to me, who saw me more
the minimum requirement.
The doctor I had originally had, I hadn't seen him more than a handful of times because we were waiting or whatever. And this wasn't a great life at this time. What I did with school was I actually took some part-time classes at Seneca still, but this is when I had started taking night classes as a welder or
Mm.
in the SMAW shop so that I could start learning more about welding. And it turned into being almost like a
A
therapy,
therapy,
almost a
yeah.
physical therapy for me, because when I dropped the hood, the pain that I was in wasn't there. I mean, it was, but I didn't pay attention to it.
Hmm.
It just kind of gave me that relief.
That
And
focus point outside of where you were, yeah.
yeah, that distraction. So I really fell in love with it, and I spent that whole year that I was really ill trying to figure out what this illness was, taking as many of these nighttime welding classes, got some certifications, started to be like, yeah, this is much more my speed. Of course, I fell in love with a commercial diver and thought about maybe moving across the country. I did a lot of research about moving and what kind of education systems are out in British Columbia, because that's where he was working and all this stuff, because I wasn't going to leave my kid, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And but then I also researched programming that was close to home as well. I didn't just say like, well, that's where
The
I'm
only
going.
option, yeah.
Exactly. I wanted to kind of make see what was available. And from that, I talked to Jim Galloway for 5 minutes on the phone at Conestoga College. And yeah, I had been welding for a year and a half at this point, had got some tickets and was trying to figure out how to break in, talk to this man. And I felt like I knew nothing about welding and said, wow, well, I absolutely need to know more. And I need to take this guy's program, because I was sold just for talking to him for 5 minutes. And I didn't realize how much of a opportunity or how big the welding world was really until I went to Conestoga. But so I got better. I had surgery, did all that stuff. I, learned how to handle that side of things. And I applied to the welding engineering, manufacturing, technology, welding robotics program, something like that. It's a long
Yeah.
name.
The WAMTER.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The wet or the wham. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I started to go to school.
So that's a full-time 2-year program, the the technology program at Conestoga, right?
It was a full-time 3-year program,
3
the one
years,
I
okay.
signed up for. When I signed up, there wasn't a lot of different options. Like today, there's much more
Yeah, there's like robotics, there's
streams.
inspection, there's all these different areas, yeah.
Exactly. There's techniques. So it was kind of like not the beginning, because this program's been at Conestoga College for many, many years, before I was born. So I had signed up because it was the only one that sounded like it would give me that in-depth information that I was looking for to help me launch a career in the welding industry. And so I applied. I did like night classes to up my math and make sure that I had all the prerequisites to get in. And that's something that I actually did when I was pregnant with my daughter, because I knew that I had to update some things and just keep myself busy. So it was good that I did all that updating previously, because it helped me then get into the Seneca program, which then helped me also get into the Conestoga program. And I've pretty much been there ever since.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. You get through the technologist program at Conestoga, it's fairly renowned. Conestoga's got a wide reach. We teach Conestoga programs in Saskatchewan. We have a joint program with Sask Poly and Conestoga. Conestoga is also involved with Jill of All Trades. Conestoga is also involved with like some R&D projects that we support at CWB. With mobility programs, and it's just a huge hub of welding stuff out of Conestoga, which has grown fairly organically for like 30 years. Now, you could pin a lot of this on Jim Galloway. Because if you don't know Jim, Google him, people. If you're listening to this in the U.S. and you want to know who is someone who really is a good game changer here in Canada, look up Jim Galloway. We have a lot of his sessions online through our website. But he's a wonderful person. He has an ability to talk to any level. He can talk as technical as you want. Any PhD he can stand up to. But then he's also so great at just talking to students and people that are even just getting into welding as a starter. You said 5 minutes and he had you in. So now you take the program. What was the program like? Did you find it challenging? Did you find it difficult, or was it just like hook, line, and sinker, you're in?
So interesting you say that. I was living in Aurora at the time, and Conestoga is about an hour and a half away from, and it was in the Guelph campus when I started. So that's like 110, 120 kilometers from my house. So that was an interesting thing because I wasn't moving my child at this time, so I commuted. I got a job on site, same as I did at Seneca. Well, if there's going to be gaps, I better fill them with important things. If I wasn't studying or working, I was napping or driving. So that was interesting because I was trying to keep up with some of the guys that were, 18 years old, fresh out of high school. Their parents were giving them the full ride. I had to go through OSAP and, take all the loans and things like that. Yes, I had some support from my family, but like I said, it's not like they handed everything to me. A huge support was watching my child or dropping her off at care, making sure she was taken care of, that sort of stuff. Absolutely. It's huge. And I did find it easy because I was so far away that I could just spend all the hours I needed in a lab, like a computer lab, or they didn't really have a library at the Guelph campus. That was all at Dune, but I could get cozy in a corner and get the work done, right? So that was beneficial to me. But I can tell you, when I was in my second year, coming off of January start, I was feeling the burnout.
Yeah.
I was feeling tired. I was feeling burnt out. And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, what is the excuse I can use to get to postpone and take a year off? Or I had, in hindsight, like now looking at what they have, I wish they had the co-op programming because that would have been exactly what I needed. Yes. What ended up happening was I ended up being blessed with my second daughter, and I'm like, well, universe, that's not exactly what I was expecting, but okay. So at this point, I was in my second year. I was just finishing up. I was pregnant with my second daughter. I had to make a decision, or I just finished second year, and then I found out I was pregnant. I ended up trying for a couple different jobs in the summer, and then I just started putting feelers out for what I could do through the summer. I ended up working for the college because I was working as a part-time student, or work study student is what they call it. So of course they wanted to keep me on because I had been a great asset to them leading up. And at this time it was an amazing opportunity because we were actually moving from the Guelph campus to the brand new site at the Fountain Street location, which is now their engineering and technology building, which was an amazing endeavor in itself. And I had just said to my boss, hey, this is what's happening. I'm not coming back to school right away. I'm going to be
pregnant,
having another baby. Yeah, I'm going to be having another baby. And I do not want to step in and not be able to do this well, because I really wanted to do it well. So I said, do you have a job? Do you have more work for me to do? And they said, yes, we do. You're the only person that knows where anything is anyway, because when we moved, I was the only person on site from start to finish of the move in, because, full-time techs had vacation and they're in and out. Yeah. And I was there the whole time and did take care of a lot of things until one full-time tech stayed in Guelph and cleaned up there, and one came over to Cambridge and was helping unload there. And kind of like my claim to fame, I guess, is that when we were packing up, one of the guys was close to retirement and had enough of the bureaucracy, is probably the nicest way to put it.
And for people that don't know, college has got a lot of bureaucracy.
Yes. And so, I won't say who he is, but and I quote, one trailer. So we packed 53-foot or 54-foot trailers. This is what we did. We packed in Guelph, and then we would tell the trailers to go away, and then we would call them back to unload them at the other side. As we're closing the first trailer, I said, okay, who's keeping track of what's on what trailer? And I quote, I don't give a And this is what the full-time guy says. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Someone should.
Well, yeah. I'm like, well, I won't be the person who doesn't know.
Yeah.
So I took out my cell phone and then documented what was on each truck and just kind of kept that in my pocket because I didn't want to be like, caught with my pants down. Like, who wants to be in one of those situations where you're like, I don't know, it's not my responsibility. Even though it wasn't my responsibility, I wasn't about to look like a fool.
Yeah.
So,
and instead you could be the hero.
Yeah, but in the long run, what ended up happening was like, I did have a great transition, and I know I got a lot of respect from people like Jim because I worked with Jim the whole time. Jim was one of the faculty that was there all the time and a huge in on the design and development and all that stuff. So it was an honor to work with him on that project. But it does create animosity because later then that person was upset that they would come to me, like upper management would come to me and ask me questions instead of them. And I'm like, oh man, well,
they did it to themselves.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, I don't feel bad about it. And I don't dislike this man. He was an amazing guy and I learned a lot from him. And I'm very humbled to be able to work with people that have that experience. But yeah, like that kind of broke me into the job that I have now. So much so that I got requested by one of the faculty that does no longer work at the college, but he requested to have me as his technologist in his second year programming. So I literally just finished second year programming, and the next year then I was the tech helping in his lab classes, which was also a great honor that I could then translate that stuff that I had just finished myself.
So how much of a break did you end up taking from your finishing your course? Because you had a baby, so there's at least a year there. I mean, depends how far you want to push it in either direction. What was the break? Was it a couple years before you could go back into your third year?
So what I ended up doing was, I worked until her due date, and wanted to make as much money as I could and stay as long as I could. She was born in February, and then I came back to work as a evening instructor in like part-time or continuing education in September of that year. So I'd only taken like 6 months off
7
of working, and then it was fine because I did like one night a week and that was kind of keep my toe in the door. And then because they had just expanded, they asked me back as the technologist at the Guelph campus when I came back so I came back a month early. So 11 months I was off of work, and I stayed as their welding technologist out of the Guelph campus. I am still there now. I didn't start taking my third year at this point until 2017. So this was all in 2011. I finished I finished the 2 years. Right. 2012, I had my daughter.
So that's a good 4 or 5 year break there.
Yeah, it was like almost 7, I think, because I think it was 2017 when I started to go back. Okay. And they do have rules on how long has it been since you last were in to be able to transfer credits. And at that point, I had graduated out because they did have a 2-year technician program. So technically I have 2 pieces of paper, if that matters. I have one that says welding technician and one that says welding technologist from Conestoga College because of the way that their programming was originally.
Nice.
Yeah, and I came back part-time in 2017 and started chipping away at the third year because at that time, let's say the bureaucracy was real, and I wasn't told I wouldn't have a job, but they do like you to have certain pieces of paper. So because the 2-year pieces of paper wasn't enough, so I went back, or I basically said, listen, you're either going to let me go and I'm going back full time and getting it, but I may not ever come back, or I'll go back part time. Yeah, work with me. Exactly. And they chose to work with me, and kind of worked out great because that year in 2017, the full-time faculty that worked out of the Guelph campus who supported all of the motive power welding programming, because there was still welding at the Guelph campus, he was asked to launch the Brantford campus welding programming. So Well, actually, they originally asked me, and I just said, I just moved here. Like, I just bought a house in 2016. I'm like, I just moved here to reduce my hour-and-a-half commute. And I said, why don't you get the full-time guy who lives 20 minutes from that campus to do that
there,
and
yeah.
have me stay here? Because who's going to run his programming? I'm like, well, I can run his programming. I've been running it with him for years now. So I covered the full-time faculty's workload plus my 24-hour a week of a technologist workload to maintain the shop, order, deal with damaged equipment, or, all of that stuff, whatever a shop needs to run. And I was going to school part-time to be able to juggle all that, plus tech for Roger down in Brantford, because I would do all the ordering and things like that remotely. Yes, at that point, 2 kids. Yep.
Yeah.
That's where that started.
So lazy you're not.
What's that?
So lazy you are not.
I got lots of tabs open always.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's lazy.
No, that's the amount of effort. People listening to the story are going to be like, geez, you must have 8D size batteries in you at all times to just keep moving. It's a lot. It's a lot on the plate, right?
Yeah, I think I've definitely been gifted with a very optimistic attitude. I don't know what it's like. I do know what depression is. I do know what it does to people. I have struggled with my own darkness too, but I do believe that I have something in me that some people who do suffer from serious depression don't necessarily have or are missing sometimes, because I'm constantly like, well, I won't be in this hole forever. There's something better over there, and I'm doing this, and I don't know, it's just perspective, right? So I constantly am thinking there's something good's coming out of it, and I was enjoying it. I loved doing it all. We were so busy before COVID happened. It was nonstop. People would look at our calendar and be like, how do you do this? I'm like, just it fits in. If it fits in, we can get it done.
Yeah, if it fits, it sticks.
Yeah. And I had been my whole adult life running weird hours and not having that 8 to 10 hours sleep. I didn't do that. That midnight oil, baby. That's what you run on, right?
I had a 4 to 6 rule. If I can get 4, I could operate. 6 is getting up to prime time.
Yeah, exactly. There was a time when I used to take 2 4-hour naps in the day. One early morning, real early morning, and then one mid-afternoon. And that actually was a really great way to function. Because you could party all night, you could do
work all day.
Work all day, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So now you finished that technologist program, so now it's your 3 in, and you've been putting in all the part-times at the college. So there's a couple angles that I see forming here. One is you could try to get that full-time college gig, which is tough to get. There's a lot of ownership when it comes to the full-time college gigs. It's hard to get in there. I did part-time for almost 7 years before I got my full-time gig, and then I quit the next year. So it's, but I at least can say I got the full-time gig. I got it. I'm sorry, I got to bounce now, but or you decide to take that technologist, those 2 pieces of paper, and bounce, go work for private industry, or go do your own thing.
Yep.
What was your path that you chose, or are choosing, because it might be evolving at any time,
it
right?
might change. That's right, and it will change in the future. So through going to school part-time, halfway through the part-time of 3rd year, I had gotten married. I had gotten pregnant again with my 3rd child. Was really excited to kind of do both of them together. I finished my level 3 when my baby was under 1 year old, which was fantastic to just kind of push it out. It was a little strange because COVID did happen at that time. COVID started right when we were going to graduate. So the tech projects and things at the end kind of got a little muddled, but I got through, and then I said, okay, now what? Well, at this point, I had been on mat leave for 9 months. COVID happened. I had opted to do an 18-month mat leave so that I could do 9 months of school, finish it up, and then enjoy another 9 months of being with my child. That's what the plan was.
Right.
November 2020 came around and I'm sitting here like physically making myself hurt because I was just so anxious about, well, how am I going to do this? I have a kid in elementary school, a kid in high school, a husband that goes to a factory of 2,500 people, and I work at a college. That's a lot of
Moving
people.
parts, yeah.
Yes, when we're talking like you have to get your brain swabbed every time you have a sneeze or something like that.
Mhm.
And I refuse to do that to my children. I'm like, no, we will not be doing these unnecessary tests. We'll just stay home for 10 days or whatever the restrictions were, because I didn't need the fear of the healthcare system, because my kids already were scared of needles and things like that. Who wasn't scared of a shot, you know? So we had made the decision that I was going to walk away from my job and my husband was going to support us. And then whatever happened would happen, because life was so, we didn't know what was going to happen.
No.
COVID was so uncertain for everyone. So I had called my boss and talked to her about it. And because I was contract, I just assumed I was quitting.
Mm-hmm.
And then she goes, well, you need to talk to HR. So I talked to HR, and then lo and behold, I find out that I actually didn't need to quit, that there was a specific
return to industry,
like,
or time off, sabbatical thing.
Yeah, it was some sort of COVID relief or whatever, so I could be off work, which was great. What it means is it retained my job. I mean, it was unpaid. I'm contract anyway, which is fine. But I got to retain my position. So they just called me every few months to see when I was ready to come back. Ultimately, I ended up going back in March 2022, kind of when masks were coming off, which was good for me because I just wanted to get back to the way it was, not to really experience the way that things ran through COVID. And so that was great. I got to spend time with my family, which was good and not so good, because I know I'm not meant to be, and nobody's meant to be with their kids 24/7. You're meant to have programming. You're meant to go out and do stuff.
Whenever I hear about parents that are with their kids 24/7, or even try to shame me for the lack of involvement I had with my kids, I think less of them than they probably think of me. It's like, okay, dude, like, where's your personality? Where's your life? What? I guess this is where I get hung up. And this is, I think, what I've been trying to do with my kids, that it's the long game. I may not have been there all the time, but they saw me working for a purpose and achieving that purpose and getting there. And they saw the sacrifice. And hopefully that's the motivation that they have to be like, that's how you do it. Bust, work hard, pay attention, be nice, don't be an asshole. All these things that you got to do to hopefully be an ethical leader in their worlds, right? When I hear,
and also quality.
Yeah.
Like, you probably had great quality time with your kids when you had it.
Yeah.
Not just mundane, blah, get off me, don't touch me, I don't want you near me, because that's what kids that are with their parents hear all the time. Like, I need space. Then a child might think that they need space from them. And it's like, really, no, they just need time for themselves. It has nothing to do with the child. But how does that affect the child's brain and what they're thinking? Like, well, my mom doesn't love me or something. Like, who knows what it is? But
there's the other side of it too. Like, I wasn't just out sleeping or like napping somewhere. I was working.
Yeah.
So when I would come back, it was like, we're going to Cuba for 2 weeks as a family, or we went to Mexico for 6 weeks once, like, because
That's
it's like,
amazing.
yeah, like, I mean, I'm not around, but there's a reason. It's not for no reason. So, Mike, every now and then my kids would be like in teenage years. They'd be like, well, we don't get to do anything. It's like, you guys got more tickets in your passport than I bet your entire school combined. Like, check yourself, check your privilege, kids. Like,
Absolutely. Now,
for yourself, are you a full-time instructor now at Conestoga? Are you on contract now? What's the situation you're in right now with your career?
So I love my job in that I
I love how you say that so slow.
Yeah. I love what I do with the students. I love being a technical translator, because that's what I feel that I am when I'm in front of a class or with a one-on-one situation with a student in a booth. It's really rewarding that you can see the aha moment or that light bulb go off sometimes, and being able to allow the equipment to help teach with me, because that's another thing. I can get somebody to set up in a certain way, and then like SMAW, it can do it for you as long as you help hold it in the right position. You know, I'm not saying that there isn't skill to be required there. I'm talking about just striking an arc and putting a pass down. But I do love that. And I love that when I start feeling a little down on myself on, you know, is this what I'm going to do forever? I'm not really sure, or where am I supposed to be? Somebody will say something to me like, hey, I'm really glad that you were in front of this class because I thought I was going to leave. But then after it was you, I stayed and it's been fantastic. Or I learned more in 5 minutes talking with you than I have all week with that guy or whatever.
Yeah,
Not
students
to knock
can really
peers.
make you feel good about yourself.
Absolutely. Make you feel like, you know, you're on the right,
Validated, yeah.
you're where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
The bureaucracy is real. I came from like landscaping and manual like property maintenance and stuff like that before all this welding stuff came into my life. So that was my practical experience. I did have some tickets, but I've only like a hair of site welding. So I don't have a lot of experience. What somebody would say would be like, you know,
On the
in
job.
industry.
Yeah.
Yeah. And nobody considers my work in moving a campus or packing up a whole bunch of robots or setting up, oh God, I don't even know how many, over 100 welding systems within one place, plus oxy-fuel systems, plus so many different experiences I got to experience within the college themselves. I also have done, I got to work on a really cool research project as an affiliate for Conestoga College. I was a research person working down out of Liberty Engineering, and we did some cool copper cladding to steel for the nuclear waste management operation through OPG. But all of those things that actually make me, you know, or my credential or what I've done in the past, according to the bureaucracy of the system, isn't the experience they necessarily want or are looking for their credential for their staff. Does that make sense to you?
It does, because I had a fight with bureaucracy that I won when I was at SAS Poly, but it was it's not the best of times to be to fight those fights, and it might be necessary,
Yes.
but it's not fun, right?
Yes. Well, and I even found myself in a position where I might not have been being paid on the same pay
Right.
scale
That's
as
how
my
it
male
started with me.
counterpart,
You know.
and all kinds of other things that I mean, I did try to, or I walked the union path because that's what you do when you're a union worker or whatever. But then I just kind of felt like I didn't understand what I was actually paying for within the.
No.
Anyway,
Yeah. That's an episode in
so
itself. I had the same thing happen with me. So.
yeah, and I decided that, is it a fight worth fighting in some aspects? And then I just decided that, you know what, I do not want to fight the machine, because that's what it is. It's the machine that has all their policies and procedures, things, and I'm sitting here going like, you know what, I'm happy to live within the function of the machine, because I am function. I am not necessary. I'm not their
You're not a
cookie cutter.
gear. Yeah.
Yeah. But I sure as heck fight a lot of fires and keep a standard that really does pump out a good quality product, and the product is people. That's just the difference. And I truly believe that I do a great job at what I do, and I'm happy to be within that function. And it's good being a part-time contractor within this type of facility, because if you work within the union as a full-time support staff or faculty for that matter, there are restrictions.
Yes, there is.
So a full-time faculty can't teach a continuing education
That's right.
spot.
Unless
So
there's
how
nobody else, right? Like,
yeah, like some sort of special, but like then the union would get on them if they
for contact
didn't
hours.
find somebody or whatever. Yeah, exactly. And as a support staff, you can only take on 3 faculty hours as a support staff if you're full time, where I find it quite beneficial that I myself am like a 2-person team where I am right now, myself and the full-time faculty, where if my full-time faculty is off for whatever reason, I can pick up his whole workload and cover. So it really does make an easy switch and dynamic that way. And it's also great on my wallet too, because I can
I
work
made
as a
more
full-time
money.
faculty for a little bit.
Yeah, I made more money teaching as part-time than I did as full-time.
I'd say my buddy and I would always have this saying though, part-time is full-time and full-time is part-time, because you worked more hours as a part-timer making more money, but the full-timers made good money but worked a lot less hours. Yeah, so I do like the grayness that I have. And like also today, me having this conversation with you in the middle of the day with the part-time work that I do, I'm capable of doing this and taking the time out to do that. Or if my kids need me for whatever reason, only when I'm affiliated with a class am I really like stuck to that schedule. Everything else is like I can call distributors whenever I want. Sometimes I have conversations with our supplier in the middle of the night. Well, maybe not the middle of the night, but late evening, because that's when they take care of their quoting and stuff like that, because they work really long hours too. So it's very flexible for me with having 3 kids. And I've noticed now that my girls are much older. Like I have almost a 20-year-old, a 12-year-old, and an almost 5-year-old. The little ones are easy. They just want some time with you. They want to have fun with you. But the big ones really need your time to listen and just talk with them and just be around.
Yeah, they
and kind
require
of be
a deeper level of connection, right?
Yeah. So it's really given me that ability to be here for my family. Yeah. So I'm really grateful that that's what I'm doing. However, like I said before, I felt like I was kind of losing myself because I was off for basically 3 years from work because I had a baby and then COVID happened. And this is actually where the association came in a little bit for me, because I was part of the association when I was a student, but then it kind of fell to the wayside because I didn't really know back then, like we're talking like 2011 kind of time. I didn't really know what the association was doing for me, and it cost money. So I was like, well, I don't have that money to $80. That seems like a lot. This was way back when, right? And so I kind of fell by the wayside, not to mention I was very busy doing all the things. But when I wasn't so busy at home, kind of feeling lost from my career, I started to attend the Conestoga College Association, CWB Association chapters events, because they did like trivia nights and some of these fun things, because they were really good at adapting to online based stuff, because it was COVID, like you said. And I could attend from home with a baby or without it, wherever, it doesn't matter. I could be there. And that really started to connect me back into the welding world, started to make me feel better about not being alone, because that's what it felt like. I felt alone. Then I started to attend the Kitchener chapter meetings because I was in school for a while, but then I just said to them, I'm like, guys, I might as well just start with the Kitchener chapter because I'm not going to be staying a student for very long. And then the chapter stuff is kind of history. I've just been there trying to work with the guys, and they've been doing it for a long time. And I think we're all waiting for some fresh meat, because we got a lot of talent, but we need that young, fiery passion that people, you know.
What are you talking about? You're that young, fiery, but what are you, 39? You're still a baby.
Almost. Yeah, almost. Yeah. So yes, that was kind of how how I started to think in my mind where my career could start going. Because in a past life, I must have been a philanthropist, Max, because I like doing a lot of for free. And now I'm thinking, who's the idiot? Because I do a lot of volunteer work. My resume has more volunteer than anything else on it.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. I swear that a lot of my opportunities I have in my life is because I've been a volunteer since I was a kid. I've never not been a part of some volunteer organization.
Absolutely. And I don't regret a single minute of it. I like volunteering my time. I like doing things to help growing our communities. I like to be that kind of person. Obviously making money is a necessity because I got to pay my bills, but I'm slowly trying to figure out how to balance all of that and start thinking outside of the box, because for a long time I would sit down and think, okay, well, what's next? What piece of paper do I need to get next? Because I need another piece of paper, or I need industry experience, or quote unquote industry experience, because what I do is very valid and experience. And I have to constantly tell myself that, because people will say things like, oh, why don't you get a real job? And I'm like, I do have a real job. Why don't you change your attitude
Yeah, why don't you get a real mouth?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. But so make something more definitive, because what am I? I'm a whole bunch of things. And that's one thing that a lot of people, how do they define themselves? You know, are you a welding technologist? Are you a mom? Are you a chapter chair? Well, I'm all of those things. So why do I have to be just one? And why do I have to define myself by my career?
Defined
or
by what
my...
standard or to who, right? Like, I mean, if
Exactly.
someone's asking, it's more about why are you asking than why should I answer, right?
Exactly. Or what answer do you want? Where are we? What convention are we at? Which hat or pair of boots am I wearing today?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So talk to me about your chapter. You know, like now you're chapter chair for Kitchener. This is a role you took over last year. Not quite. I think not quite a year ago. Now,
not even just October.
Yeah. So since October. What's that experience like for you? Has it been too much, too little, overwhelming, worthwhile? You know, because like most chapter chairs across Canada, including myself, years ago, I was voluntold into this position and was like, oh, okay, what's going on? And sometimes things have just been running for a while, and then you're not really sure how they were running, and now it's up to you to keep them running, right?
That's kind of how I feel. I actually apologize to our former chair, because, you know, you send emails sometimes and all of a sudden it's like crickets, and then you send another email. I'm like, oh, everyone's like, oh, hey, sorry, I meant to give you an answer. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't have time for this. Like, I need you to either answer me the first time or I'm making the decision, right? Like, that's how I work. And we do have a lot of talent in our chapter who have lots of industry experience, who work in industry, who work at the college, who are very influential, and they are great resources to have within our chapter, because we can do things like, you know, get sponsorships for giveaways, have great technical talks. Like coming up this week, we have one from Jim Galloway. He's going to do a great technical talk for us. That stuff is great, but then having the people in the background to do all the organizational stuff, that is where I'm trying to get a little bit more fresh blood on our membership or on our exec panel to help with that side of things. Because, like I said, I got lots of talent, but they have lots of things going on in their lives too. So I need some people who want to do that organizational thing. So I'm working on that. I actually, my friend that I was talking to you about before we started today, who just moved back from British Columbia, is very keen. Yes, is very keen. She actually came to an International Women's Day event with me last week that Skills Ontario had put on. It was kind of launching myself as a brand, because I'm also doing some side stuff there. But it was also to bring out that I'm not just one. I don't just have one pair of boots. I had all the Kitchener chapter gear out. I talked with a whole bunch of people about Kitchener chapter, handing out all the swag. You know, they look at me and they're like, "Are you an artist?" And I'm like, "Well, some days
I can be."
Like, yeah, exactly.
Who's paying?
Right? Because I always loved doing the metal art stuff. Who doesn't love to put together something cute for their friend or their mom or their whatever, their significant other? And I also, a few years ago, put in some art pieces to the International Institute of Welding for their digital art collection. So that was also something I wanted to showcase. That you do not have to be one thing. You don't have to be just a welding technologist. You can be an artist, a welding technologist, a chapter chair, a mom, a friend, all those things. And it's okay, because even though it's confusing and it feels I feel a little lost some days,
a little just disjointed, maybe, yeah,
or just broad. I just feel so broad. It's thin. Like, you know, yeah, that it's hard to define, you know, because I'm proud of everything that I've done. I was a teen parent, and look where I am now. Like, yes, I've had lots of support, but that's only from all the hard work that I've
we all have.
In,
no one gets
right?
No one climbs alone.
Exactly, right? So So I really like that I can combine these things, and it's not just you have to get into one career path and then stay there forever. Because that was one thing that I was afraid of too when I was younger, to be like stuck in a cubicle for the rest of my life. I didn't want that. And I don't think I'm even close to that. Like, I get time to write procedures and I get time to write SOPs, but I also get time to technically translate or share my passion for metal art, or,
Be on
work in.
podcasts.
Yeah, exactly. All of the things. So
Now we're getting close to the end of the interview here. We've covered off a lot of the great points, but what's a future state for Jackie? Because you've had such a diverse path, of different experiences to get you to where you are now. And I don't feel like it's anywhere close to done. Like, I mean, I feel like this is always an evolving thing, which I think is exciting and daunting and exhausting and invigorating, like all these things. Where do you see yourself? You're coming up on 39, let's say 10 years out, are you gunning for that full-time Conestoga gig someday? Are you looking to maybe branch out? You said you're looking to build yourself a brand. That means you got a side hustle going on, and I'm all about the side hustle, me and my side hustles. So,
Yep.
What are you envisioning? What's the next steps looking like?
So my vision right now is combining all of these things I love to work together, because I have multiple communities that I absolutely adore, spending time with them, working with our hands, educating people. And I want to bring them together because I feel so spread thin. Because of that, I want to try because there's so many different things that are connected. I mean, on our previous meeting I am a disc golfer as well. Well, disc golf baskets are metal. Maybe we'll do some workshops on making disc golf baskets. Well, that's something education/community come together. We do have a plan to be doing a fundraiser to help make the community more inclusive with the Canadian Welding Bureau Association Kitchener chapter, with also in conjunction with Guelph Disc Golf Club and the Queer Disc Golf, to basically bring together different communities through a disc golf event. However, the goal is to hopefully create some pathways for people that are in the 2S LGBTQ plus kind of area to come into the welding world and maybe learn that there's a place for them too, because there is so much versatility within welding, and that you don't have to wear the same hat every day, but there is something for you to contribute. So I'm very excited to try to blend all of that stuff together, because I have felt so segregated myself for so long. I'm done with the segregation. I want to start building community. I mean, I've seen a lot of organizations try to build and fight that segregation, but they're also segregating. They're fighting segregation with segregation, which I think is kind of counterintuitive. So
it is an interesting juxtaposition. It is. And I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, even just now you're talking about, the queer community, which I love deeply. I'm very involved with my queer community here in Regina, and I try to support as much as I can. And it's like, I want the queer community to be as comfortable as in any other human being in the welding fields. And it's always like people start thinking immediately of like, well, they could do that job or they could do that. What are you talking about? They can
do whatever they want.
They can do whatever they want. Like, exactly. Why are we trying to create baskets out of baskets? You know what I mean? Like, it's like you're telling me to take apart this basket to build a new basket. Like what? Let's back up. And why can't the most eccentric, flamboyant, queer person in the world, like, pick the most one, the Liberace of queers? Why can't they just work in a manufacturing shop and build widgets? Absolutely. Why do we need to be like, well, what's the job that would suit you? Any job, bro. Any job. Like, what are you like? You know what I mean? It is frustrating.
Yes. Yeah. Which job interests you the most? And that's one thing that I say to a lot of people. I'm like, look, It's about your journey. If you love it, you're gonna love it and you will be better at it. I want a doctor who loves their job. I don't want one who hates it. I want a welder who loves their job, because they're ultimately going to do a better job at their job. And that goes for everything. And if you don't like it, like I said, your toolbox has got wheels. Move on, do something different, and know that it's okay to have a million tabs open and that you have a lot of versatility. And that's the best thing about the welding industry, is that there is so much versatility.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a welder on the floor. You could be an engineer who's designing. You could be a salesperson. You could be an inspector. You could be a podcast director or personality. Like, you can be so many different things. And there is a lot of joy in knowing that I am, and nobody else has to be stuck in one path. Live your life to what makes you happy, because it's your life. You only have one of it. You know, everybody only has one life. Why are we going to get into that cyclical, get up in the morning, drag yourself to work, go to work, come home, shower, eat, bed,
unless you love that.
again.
I gotta say,
Unless you love
we
that.
need the widget makers.
Yeah, sure. But
Yep.
at the same time, what are they doing on their vacation? Or maybe they go and they work
Yep.
hard for a couple weeks and then they go
They have
play
their happy
hard.
time. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, you build a life that you want to build. And if you're unhappy, it's because you're sitting in it. You're choosing to stay in that position. I'm not saying that, there aren't times where I'm in a happy place, but there's unhappy things going on around. Absolutely. That's life. But, don't do something because somebody said that's what you should do or that's what you should be.
Yeah, you gotta feel it. You gotta vibe with it.
Yeah.
I've
You'll be far more successful.
Yeah, I've brought it up on the show before. Like, I mean, I've had the jobs where I'm pulling over on the side of the road on the way to work to cry. And it's like, I hate this job. But that's, then the other side of me is like, you need this job. It's a good job. It pays very well. People out there would want this job that you are hating. And then eventually I was like, why am I guilting myself into staying? They can have it.
Yep. Well, and like we said before, it doesn't mean you're like going to walk out the door and just let go of your position. It means you're going to take the time to go and headhunt your own new company.
Yeah.
You are valuable, so you can choose where you want to go.
Self-reflect. What do I need? What skills am I missing to get out of here? What do I need on my resume? And even just that thought process when you're down, to be like, I hate where I am. Even just to put it down on a piece of paper, being like, okay, what do I need to get out of here? Oh, I need this ticket, or I need this course. And you start Googling it on the internet. That's exciting. Immediately you start feeling better, because you're like, okay, these are things I can do. These are positive, forward motions.
Or do things like become part of a club or a member of the CWB Association. Because when you're in that slump, like I've been there, and you're like, okay, how can I connect with people in the industry I want to connect with? There are clubs for every industry, I swear. Yeah. And if you find that community, and then even if you just become friends with a handful of those people, the opportunity that is there is like, hey, well, we have a job opening at such and such. You should apply because you'd be great or whatever. So now it does come down to who you know, but also you would never have known that was an option if you weren't friends with these people just shooting the breeze over a beer or something like that, right? So
I always
connecting with people.
I always found it interesting that people would be like, it's not what it's who you know, and that would be derogatory. And I'd be like, actually, why is that derogatory? I mean, that sounds like a good deal, because I know way more people than things I know. Like,
well, you need to actually. Well, it makes sense where it is who you know, but you also need to know. You also need to be in the know,
be able to back it up. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, you got to be able to back it up, because otherwise, you got nothing to stand on.
Well, the industry filters those out pretty quick. Like people, like you said, like people that peak in high school. It's like there's people that come into welding or the trades, and it's like, oh, hot shot this, hot shot that. Yeah, we'll see where you are in 5 years. Like the industry will filter itself out pretty quick.
Well, and be humble, but be respectful. Like I had a student once. He was an industrial mechanic, and I always would come in and start teaching right off the bat. I have a real bad time to actually introduce myself. Most of the time I just start going. And the guy he came to me after class and said to me, he's like, hey, I thought I wasn't going to learn anything today. And I was like, well, that's strange. You came to school and you thought you weren't going to learn anything today. But I think he meant that he wasn't going to learn anything from me
From
for
you.
whatever
Yeah,
reason. Yeah, from whatever reason. Maybe it's a female thing. I don't know. It didn't matter. It didn't bother me. But he said, I learned a lot today, and I just wanted to let you know. And that was very humbling, I think, for him to be able to have the courage to come and say that to me.
Mhm.
And it goes to show, and this was many years ago. This was like maybe 10 years ago, because I've been with the college for since 2011.
13 years. Yeah.
So, yeah. So, it was a long time ago, but I think that means the change is already happening, that there are people within the industry who, as long as you show up and show what you know, they'll respect you. Know your and you'll be all right. And also be honest, because if I don't know the answer, I'm not going to bullshit them. You
Yeah.
can't. People smell that from miles away.
Miles away.
Like,
and
be
it's
honest.
a simple Google
Yeah.
to find out if you're lying.
Yeah, just be honest. And if you have the ability to say like, hey, you know what? I don't know the answer to that. But in my position, I can say, but you're going to find out and bring it back to me next week and we'll have a conversation, or vice versa. Hey, you know what? I don't know. I'm going to go find out and then we'll have a chat. That's really important.
normal,
And that, I guess
yeah.
it comes down to integrity, right?
Mhm.
Like if you have integrity and pride for what you do, you're not going to try to pull the wool over anyone's eyes. You're going to
Yeah.
just be honest about it.
And wool's kind of see-through. Like, how thick a wool are we talking? Like,
Exactly. Especially with my computer in my pocket.
yeah. All right. Well, this wraps up the interview. I love this. We're almost at 2 hours. We've been just rocking and rolling here. What would be, I guess, as a final point, what's the advice you would give? You can cover any demographic that you want. We can talk single moms, the single moms out there. What's the opportunities in welding, or for the people that are just lost in the structure, or as a woman, or there's so many things that Jackie can represent. What piece of advice would you give out there to the people listening?
Just be your true authentic self. Be you, do what you want, and mold your own path. Don't listen to people saying like, if there's a hard way, that's the way you go, because that's what people told me. It wasn't the hard way, it was my way.
Mm-hmm.
Enjoy life. Life's not, or tomorrow's not
Guaranteed,
given to
yeah.
anyone. Yeah, it's not guaranteed for anyone. So just enjoy what you're doing, and don't be afraid to get dirty and work hard. And listen, if somebody's got passion and they're sharing passion, listen, because you will learn so much from just listening to somebody else share what they have to share, and then you might find a spark, and then you can find a direction that you would like to at least travel. And there's no reason why you can't do a U-turn or turn left or right. It doesn't matter.
No, there's lots of time.
There's no direct line to the final destination. And what's the final destination anyways, Max? Death?
No, I don't know.
What's the final destination?
There's a very good saying in philosophy: when the destination is unknown, any road will take you there.
Exactly. There you go. So that's fantastic.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Jackie, for being on the show. It's fantastic. I'll be seeing you at the NAC in Toronto here in a couple months and away, so we'll be able to hang out. And if anybody's ever in the Kitchener area or wants to become a part of the Kitchener chapter, please do so. They do amazing work. All the GTA chapters are doing really well right now, so lots of opportunities there and really cool stuff. This will probably be released after your event, but check out their website. Their social media is on point. There's always lots of stuff coming up and cool events. So thanks, Jackie, for being here with me today.
Thanks so much, Max. It was a pleasure.
Awesome. And for all the people that have been following along with the podcast, thank you so much for being a part of this. Make sure you keep downloading, sharing, and commenting on our podcast wherever you can. And I've always appreciate the what do you call them? The leads you send me for finding new guests. I chase them all down. And for the people on Instagram that I message, I'm not just some creeper. People send me to you, and then I put in your chat being like, hey, you want to be on my podcast? And you're leaving me on read. Answer me back, because I mean, if I'm reaching out to you, I like your story and I'd love to have you on the show. So I hope you become a part of it. So stay tuned for the next episode.
We hope you enjoyed the show.